Welcome, everybody, back to the Nuggets of Gold podcast and YouTube channel. Today, we're going to be doing our 49ers Packers predictions. Now, I don't know if you guys have seen this graphic, but apparently, when the 49ers have had a winning record, which they do right now, Aaron Rodgers has lost every single matchup against the 49ers in his career. Doesn't mean that he hasn't played well, but it is very interesting. Just with, the 49ers passed up on him for Alex Smith. He basically said they're always going to regret this. Trust me, the 49ers and us we wish that Aaron Rodgers was drafted to the 49ers. But just looking at how he's performed against them or how his team's performed against the 49ers, we've seen that there's been a lot of times, especially with Kyle Shanahan at the helm, the Packers defense especially has struggled a lot. So today we're doing our predictions. Aiden, what are you thinking headed into this week? What are you thinking headed into this prime time Sunday night football game?
I'm thinking that there's two teams in the NFL that I think most other 49ers fans have kind of a unwarranted confidence that we're going to beat every single time that we play them. That is the LA Rams and the Green Bay Packers. I feel like we've just owned those two teams since Shanahan has been here, and the Packers even before then. I mean Kaepernick ran all over them, and I think Harbaugh even beat him a couple other times. But I just think it's so interesting how Rodgers looked awful in week one. They looked a lot better in week two against the Lions, who the Niners already played. I think there's a lot of super fun storylines. I love that it's Sunday night. I think we're going to see a little bit more of Trey Lance, which is always exciting. But I think it's going to be a tough game. I think it's going to be a higher scoring game than some of the last games have been. This is D'Amico Ryans' first true test against a really good, really established quarterback. I think there's going to be some growing pains there. I think we got used to Robert Saleh just dialing it up super well every time against Aaron Rodgers. I think the Packers are going to be able to score a few more points. But like I said, the Niners have owned the Packers. I don't expect that to change. And are we doing score predictions right now? Okay. I would go sitting here right now. It is in my head. I'm getting a 31-27 Niners win. First one to 30 wins. But I think it'll be tight the whole way. Of course, I want to see the Niners blow them out like we've done the past few times, but I think it'll be tight the whole way.
That just barely covers the spread. I'm pretty sure it's at -3.5 right now. So barely covering the spread for the Niners. Now, I think I'm going to go a little bit of a different route. I'll get to my score prediction at the end of this, but I'm thinking going into this game, you brought up the two teams that the Niners fans have this, confidence when they go up against, right? Doesn't really depend on the roster. Best part about that, what do those two teams share? They share coaches who coached under Kyle when Kyle was with Mike Shanahan. Those are the two guys that were his boys, Sean McVay and both the LaFleurs actually. But that's what it is. That's why I don't know what that is. I don't know why Kyle has the advantage against these guys and they don't have the advantage against Kyle. Like they've worked together, but for whatever what reason, Kyle always seems to beat up on those guys, and they're running the same schemes. It's interesting that that's the case. Now, part of me wants to look at it against both these teams and go, well, the Niners defense is kind of the reason that the Niners came in and established this Seattle scheme is because Kyle said it was the scheme that gave him the most trouble. So maybe you look into it and that's part of it. I think that's definitely going to play a role here, but I think there's a bigger issue. So I think when you're looking at the Niners right now, everyone wants to talk about, well, there's no running backs healthy. We're going to talk about that tomorrow. We're going to go all into running backs. But as we know, Kyle Shanahan teams, it's next man up in the running back room always. So Eli Mitchell, I believe he's going to play. If he plays and he plays the whole game, I'm not super concerned. He's looked really good early on. I think he's a fantastic back. On the 49ers side, outside of that room, you have Javon Kinlaw, Eric Armstead are banged up. I think they're both going to play. Mosley's been slowly coming back, but as we saw, surprisingly, Josh Norman actually looked pretty solid last week. Wasn't really expecting that. Dre Greenlaw's on IR, but he wasn't playing last week, and Aziz has stepped up. However, you look at the injuries on the Packers side. They do not have Bakhtiari. Their right tackle is now Billy Turner, who's pretty solid. And their left tackle normally is Elton Jenkins, who's also pretty solid. Jenkins might be out. He's questionable, and there is like serious concerns if he's going to play. You're talking about two tackles that are going to be losing the advantage every single time against the Niners. And you look back at how the Niners have been able to play well against the Packers offense, it's if you generate pressure. If you can get Aaron Rodgers to get the ball out super quick and not be able to throw the ball downfield, you're at that much better of a spot. So for that reason, I think it's going to be very, very difficult for the Packers to win. And I love Aaron Rodgers. I think Aaron Rodgers is a fantastic player, but the 49ers have done a good job of not like completely taking the game out of his hands, but when he doesn't have time, like you're limited. You can only do so much. So they're going to be relying a ton on like getting Aaron Jones and that run game going. AJ Dillon maybe has a bigger performance. He's a bigger back, kind of can just get some yardage. If they're able to run the football well, they're going to be in a lot better spot. But if they're not going to be able to run the football, and you're going to see Nick Bosa, D Ford, maybe Eric Armstead, and Javon Kinlaw, I think both of them are going to play. If you see those guys out there on passing downs, Arden Key subbing and Samson Ebukam, all of these defensive linemen, right? It's going to be very hard for him to be able to push the ball down the field. As we've seen like in 2019 when the Niners had a very good defensive line, his like I think it was 1.5 yards were his average air yards per throw. Like that's really, really low. And if that's how it looks, I think it's going to be a blowout. And it's weird because I didn't even think that last week against the Eagles. And I think that the Packers are going to go farther throughout the season than the Eagles are. It's just the matchup is not good for the Packers. It's not very favorable at all. Then you look at the Packers defense, and I'm sure any Packers fans listening, I think they're pretty concerned about the defensive side of the ball. Kevin King got benched last week. They put in Eric Stokes. I really liked Eric Stokes coming out of, I think it was Georgia. I can't remember. I'm pretty sure it was Georgia. Okay. Yeah, I liked him a lot because he's a pretty versatile player. If he's a number 2, I think they're in a much better spot. I don't think Kevin King is a good player. But either way, that's not really how the Niners have won against this Packers team. We know what they're going to try to do. They're going to try to pound the rock. If Eli Mitchell is healthy, which I expect him to be, even if he's not, I still think it's going to be very difficult for the Packers against the 49ers run game. This scheme has just absolutely carved them up in recent weeks. So I think it's going to be kind of a blowout. If it's not, that's great. I like watching fun football games. Like it's more meaningful. You learn more about your team if it's not like a blowout in the second quarter. I think last week we learned a ton about the Niners. Like they play with a ton of grit. So I would love to see that again this week. I think anyone that's a football fan wants to see a close game, but I don't think it's going to be like that. I'm probably going to go Packers 17. I'll go Niners 31 as well. So 31-17. I'll rock with that as well. So I do think that's a 2-touchdown game. I think that's a lot, but I just don't think this is a good matchup for the Packers. Many times they're going to hang in, they're going to be in it, but Zadarius Smith is also out. Like they're just beat up. You have Bakhtiari in there. That's going to neutralize the pass rush a good amount, but he's out too. I just think the Packers are in a rough spot, and I think that's why we've seen them. I think that's why we saw them struggle against the Saints, and I think it might look maybe not to that extent, but I think it might look like that a little bit. So I'm going to rock with a big Packers win. But anything else you want to add before we take off out of here, Aiden?
Yeah, I think that the main thing to think about in terms of the Niners offense against the Packers defense, you mentioned that they're not going to match up well. The Packers did switch defensive coordinators from Mike Pettin to Joe Barry, who was the Rams assistant head coach and linebackers coach last year. So something to at least think about, to consider. I don't think we have enough film on this new Packers defense to really see what kind of changes he's made, but Niners fans can think about it and think that D'Amico taking over for Saleh is similar in that they're both running pretty similar things, but D'Amico has things that he wants to do that Saleh did not, namely more man coverage. So that's something to think about going into this game, but I think that we both expect the Niners to win. I think it'll be a little closer, but I am completely fine if the Niners end up winning by two touchdowns. You will not see any complaints from me.
Yeah, final thing I want to say. I think there's a guy that might have a huge touchdown this game. Kind of forgotten player, Trenton Cannon. He played week 1, Monday Night Football, on the Ravens team. He's a great kick returner, but he is a home run hitter. He is a very, very fast guy. and he's going to see some touches because he's been in the building long enough. So maybe we see a big play by Trenton Cannon. Just cool to see, a guy like that who's bounced around the league a little bit. Hopefully he has a great play. But that's all for us today. Both picking Niners. I'm picking them win big. Aiden thinks it's going to be a close game, but they're going to win out and win in a shootout. So that's going to do it for today. Tomorrow, we're going to go over the 49ers running back room before the game starts. That'll come out pretty early on Sunday morning. But thank you all for listening, and we'll talk to you very soon.